Yeah, I'll kick off. So, Rod Murray. Yeah, the Meenian Town Hall. So, if you don't know where Meenian is, it's also on Gurnee land, down in Gippsland. So, it's about a bit over 2 hours drive from Melbourne. So, you're heading towards Wilson's Promontory, just out of Leongatha. There's a small town, small farming town. It's probably got about 800 people, 6 to 800 people in there. And in that location is a hall which has been pretty well maintained since it was built in 37. It's had several updates and upgrades and stuff like that, but it is a nice little space which holds 250 people. The stage itself, the stage is elevated, so it's a meter off the floor. So that's a nice little thing. It's a smallish stage, but enough to fit a good sized band in there. And it's renowned around the district because of its sprung floors, which are great for dancing on. Apparently, so that's sort of the whole. Mean in itself, it is farming area. You've got tractors going through the main street as well as all the trucks and stuff as well as that. But because it's on the way to the prom and the area down there, it's a pretty good. It's a visitor location, so people do drop in there. There's some really good bakery. There's a great couple of restaurants. Well-known Truly's Pizza restaurant in there, pretty much known around the area. So it does attract people for the food as well, and probably one of the reasons why those restaurants and businesses turned up in Meenian, which was a pretty sleepy place around the year 2000, was because of the success of the hall and of what Lyrebird's done there. So Lyrebird itself, so that was started 1999 by Ian Bevington. So Ian was a local, been living in Melbourne with his partner Suzanne for a while. Came back to the area, and Ian was a bit of an old punk, but a full-on music head. So he got back down here and had a young family. Couldn't get up to Melbourne to see bands and everything like that. So he decided I'll just start putting shows on. So he did, and he tried, in pubs and played at the Darwin Hall and Darwin Pub and all these sorts. Didn't really find his space, and tried a few other little halls around the area until he came across the Medium one, which was a good size and in pretty good condition, and had a good committee behind it who were looking after the hall. So he set up shop there, and that was pretty much around 99, 2000 that the first shows came on. So, he tried a few things. At that stage, it wasn't easy to get, touring bands or any bands really down this way, except for a couple of Melbourne bands and stuff like that. But he hit the jackpot one time. So I guess when it did change and Meanion became sort of known was when we got Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings down. So that was 2004. And all of a sudden, music people came down, ABC came down and recorded the show. And that sort of show sort of said, okay, these guys can do it. They can put on an act of this size and do it well. The artists loved it. So out the back, we got a really nice green room, very important. And the green room, it's got an open fireplace. We put couches out there, set up tables with tablecloths, candles, the whole lot. They get proper served meals, cooked on house. So we get a cook come in and does all that. So that sort of thing that elevated it, and all of a sudden, a few more promoters said, "Yeah, okay, we'll take a punt down in this little hall," and that really kicked it off. Um, so that was the early days. Things went on, and then Ian, being he was well, quite mad. He's a dear friend, but he's pretty mad. So he thought he'll just do a couple of music festivals as well. So he started kicking off the Mossvale Park music festivals as well, and they became a pretty good success as well. So the Lyrebird, it got a reputation as pretty honest. and easy to deal with. I think is a good thing. So no complications, straight down the line, no hidden costs and all that sort of stuff. So the promoters just come and bank on it. And the other good thing was the shows were getting supported. So um, people were coming in. There was an interest around the area. It's no use putting shows on if people don't come. And so that all came together to the point where we are now. So Colin and so Ian basically invited me onto the committee. Yeah, I used to go to every show, and Ian invited me onto the committee. I can't really 2017 to 16, something like that. Hummed and hard and say, yeah, okay, I'll get involved. And then he slowly groomed me and said, okay, I'm giving up, I'm done. And he handed over the baton to myself and Colin at that stage. So we do have a committee. We're all volunteers. The sound guys, we pay them, and make sure we do get good sound guys. We're lucky to have a couple of good ones down here. Otherwise, we get them down from Melbourne. And yeah, the committee of 12 presently. So everyone has a varying amount of input. Some, just come and help us set up on the night or whatever, or the day and help us pack up because we do have to, it's a community hall, so we do have to take everything in and out. And then probably myself, Colin, and one other do the bulk of the work, I guess, behind the scenes. Um, at the same stage, though, we are trying to make sure that other people can jump in. I do work, and in my job there, it is something I find pretty important is to make sure other people can do whatever I want because we do want to go on holidays or whatever comes apart. So it's just a continuity plan more than anything. So yeah, that's sort of the background of how we got to be where we are. But really, it was the hard work of Ian and Suzanne. Now, Ian, look, he was a dictator. He didn't run a committee like he does now. He and Suzanne did it all. Which is a good thing because he kept a straight line on how he wanted the vision of how the Lyrebird he wanted it to be. You know, there was he had a broad interest in music and he tried to attract that rather than, it's pretty easy to put on shows and we can all put on the standard regulars, which will sell out and we know them. And they're always good to do because they're an easy show to get out and about. But I think you tried to bite into people's curiosity to try and get them to see other things. And to a large degree, it's been successful. So yeah, that's pretty much the background. So I don't know how we want to do this. I don't want to be talking for an hour.
I just no. I mean, we're interested to know if Colin's got anything to add, but we will have some questions that we'll raise sort of toward the end of the session, and all pretty valid questions, I guess. Everybody here is, interested in doing what you guys do to some degree, or supporting it at least. Colin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, look, there's probably just a couple of additional points. I think probably one of the themes that Ian and Suzanne latched onto pretty early in the piece as they were kind of in the formative years, if you will, of the early shows, was to make sure that the focus was on the music. So if you're having an event, and we've all been to them, where people gather and the music's just sitting in the background and people are nattering away and you've got the bar and all that kind of stuff. Ian and Suzanne didn't want any of that. They wanted music to be the focus, and probably just as importantly is they wanted the quality of the presentation to be as high as they could actually make it. So in terms of the sound system that they would get in, they would make sure it's like the highest quality, the quality that they could get their hands on. And over the years, we've actually been very, very lucky. We've been able to get a grant to actually buy the system that we've been hiring for many, many years. But one of the principles is to be able to not compromise on the quality of what we want to do, and just make sure that all of the piece parts of putting a presentation on during is making sure that all of the details are as right as we can make them. I think probably it's
I have a question.
sure.
I'm sorry. No, I guess we'll raise some of these questions in the hope that they may bring a few others to the fore. But from I was saying to you earlier that my partner is a musician, and I know what he looks for in a gig. But what would you say? I mean, one of the things I always think of with any new venue is what are the acoustics like? And generally, you know, if an artist sounds good, they'll come back. If they don't sound good, you'll never see them again. And a lot of small hall spaces are kind of like, we have this beautiful space, and it's, you know, and they probably are very beautiful spaces. They probably would have great capacity and even a great green room, parking, everything you'd require. But if they don't sound good, all of that is for naught. So what are the particular things that you would, from your experience working in this environment, what do you think are maybe the top 5 things that get these artists to come back to you each time?
You're right with the sound. On stage, the sounds fantastic. So they're always happy up on stage with the sound. The hall itself, it's you know, it's a big wooden hall. It's got drapes down the side. And at the back wall, it used to be used as a cinema as well. So it's just got a blank back wall at the back, which we do now place drapes across the back for acoustics, just to stop the rebound. So, and you know, that is one thing we have on our plan, is to get acoustic treatment improved in the hall. But the hall still sounds great. You get 250 people in there. That's seated capacity. And you know, like I said before, we use really good sound gear. So we have invested heavily in a top-notch sound system. And been blessed enough to also have one of the sound engineers spend a lot of time in the hall and working out the proper frequencies to, you know, set the sound gear up to. So generally it is something everyone should pay attention to, is the sound, because it's good for the punters and it is definitely good for the band also. You know, you still have nights where the sound, you know, could be a touring sound engineer that doesn't know the hall or just uses the hall differently, and the sound, you know, I'm pretty critical on it, so it won't be as good. So definitely sounds one. Look, for the artists turn up, and you know, some of the internationals will turn up and I'll just walk in and go, what the hell am I doing in this place? It's a old community hall and out in the back of nowhere, and you know, we're international stars. What are we doing here? And so they do walk out into the green room. The green room it's rather large. It doesn't have to be large, but it's really comfortable and cozy. So it has got an open fireplace. You know, we set the table up for them with proper cutlery and proper plates and all that sort of stuff. And we have a cook who cooks for them also. So from the time they walk in, they just walk in and go, oh yeah, okay, I can chill out here. It's all right. You know, so that is always complimented on, is that. And yeah, maybe the two biggest compliments is that and the sound is what they're happy with. And I guess Colin touched on you know, on the patrons too. So we haven't got a bar, so people do walk in, they'll bring an esky or they'll bring a bottle of wine, they'll bring some food, and they sit pretty much at the table. So there's not a lot of movement around during the shows. So generally it's a really quiet, attentive crowd who goes in, and that's appreciated too. You know, there is no bar noise and stuff like that. So
it's the kind of artists you're
and I think just to add to that is certainly the headline artists. That's, you know, we get that lovely feedback from them, but I think probably also importantly is the support artists, because for some of them, Minion probably ends up being the biggest audience they ever play in front of, and a lot of times they actually compliment on how the crowd is just, they've actually turned up to watch the support artists, which at other venues that just never happens.
There's a question about that actually in the chat, Colin. It says, have you trained your audience not to talk through the set, and do you use an MC? to set the bill?
No, we
You
don't
don't
use
use
an
an
MC.
MC.
No, we don't use an
No.
MC. I have heard that very early in the piece, one of our former committee members, she would actually go around to the tables, and if people were chatting while the performance was on, she'd say, "Look, come on, you need to be respectful of the artist." And I think so that might have been a little bit of inadvertent training, but I think the audience, the community there is that they just love the music so much, and they'll actually come and be already respectful of the artist and their performance. They know that when they gather, they could say, we open the doors at 7 and we start the show at 8, and so it's plenty of time for people to come, gather, enjoy the food and drink and that kind of thing. And then when the music starts, that's it. Everybody just shuts up and pays attention to the stage. It's really, really good.
There's another audience question here about where the audience is coming from. Is it all local, or I think you probably get some people from Melbourne who have missed some of the other shows and they want to get in for a small, intimate show of the
definitely.
big artists. Yeah.
And like since we've taken on the shows, we do go for Oztix, which obviously gives you the demographics and where people are buying from. So it is pretty mixed. You do get a lot of Melbourne people come down. They do know the shows. If they've been once, I prefer probably, if they can, to come down and see the show down here rather than in the city, a city show. But look, there is one guy who comes from Singapore. If he knows his artists, it's a couple of his favorite artists are playing, so he'll make a special trip down.
What?
But yeah, I mean, then there is a lot of locals, so it's pretty spread.
Sorry, I've just got a question about that.
Okay.
Like, to add to that, do you have like partnerships or something with accommodation in the area that you can people, because I imagine people will make a weekend of it and stay down there somewhere.
It's probably the biggest problem. So there's only one motel in town that's got 10 rooms. That said, you got all the coastal towns around. So you got the Inverlocks and Phillip Island and all that sort of stuff. So there is other places you can stay at. And then actually during summer, quite a few people just bring a tent down and stay at the Rec Reserve.
Nice.
That's free camping and stuff there. So
yeah,
it is a problem. It is the accommodation side of things, definitely.
I was just going to add that the kind of genre you guys are featuring, I guess, creates a very discerning audience. You don't generally get people who are up for a yoo-ha or a Yahoo, I should say, which is kind of nice that you're featuring those artists that have, they're drawing audiences that are more respectful of performers, therefore less chit-chat. Sorry, going back to the other question. Would that be kind of correct?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. I mean, it was funny. It's last year, I think, and one of the tour managers came along and he said, "Oh, I'd love to do the Cosmic Psychos here." And I thought, "Oh," he says, "They got the biggest bar record at the corner and all sort of stuff." And I was, but good show. Look, I like the Cosmic Psychos, but it's not going to work at this joint. Then again, we did put. I mean, we got offered Emil and the Sniffers, and you don't give up. You don't give up the chance to do Emil and the Sniffers. So,
God!
And so that was a standing event. No, we did it. We've done it. Yeah.
Oh, you've done it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we'll get them again.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe that's a chat for another day.
So you do got to sort of weigh it up. So
yeah. Carm Hogan had a question. Who does the curating, and is it via a committee process?
Yes, I mainly do it. And like I mentioned before, so we're trying to bring, I'm not going to be around forever. So I've got a couple of younger guys who I'm starting to slowly bring into it. And, and Colin and I will definitely discuss, we'll look at the cost of things and what we think, how many people are going to turn up and stuff. But it's generally comes through me, that side of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so how that works is, I think I saw something else in the chat of how we, the sort of music we get, and mainly promoters contact us. I do reach out to, and we've got a pretty broad spread of promoters and stuff like that who'll get in contact with us for shows. And because we're only doing, the 15 to 20 shows a year, we do have to sort of, balance how it's coming through. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but and so, look, if it was my thing, I'd be doing a lot more world music probably, but I know it's not going to sell all the time. So you sort of got to balance it up. So we've got Paul Dempsey, we've got Alex Lloyd coming up now, and we had Sarah Blasco. So you get those shows and you just know that they're going to do fine. And look, they're great shows. No worries about that. I don't, I'd go and see them myself. So it is that thing, but I do have to generally accept that it would be a show I think I'd like to see. Or that if it's not just for me, and that's where I'll reach out to the younger guys and say, what do you think about this now? And there's quite a lot of acts I've never heard of before, and so you have to do a bit of background work. I was overseas for 10 years in the 90s, and so a lot of those 90s acts, they weren't playing in Germany at that stage, so so I've missed out on all of those. So yeah, the genres is and the picking of shows, it's pretty much done that way.
Got it.
And hopefully these young guys are suffering. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think this was kind of answered by Colin a little earlier. Nathan asked if you hire the sound and lighting equipment, but I think we've established that you guys invested in a system that was yours in-house and was reliable. I think that's another thing, isn't it? There are a lot of venues who, may not be able to afford a system and therefore would be seeking acts that would BYO, little PA or amp. And so that's a big thing. I think, the affordability of a great in-house system is going to attract great acts. But what if you don't have access to that?
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. So we had a good deal with, so we were, every show prior to 2 years ago, we were bringing everything down. So doing the whole setup. So, the speakers beyond trees and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then we thought, this is getting too much. And so we sought a grant and got a good deal on the stuff because we had been the primary users of this gear, and it's all high-end gear. So we got a good deal on that, and still tapping away and doing improvements and stuff. But it's a blessing to have it really just have it just permanently there. We still have to pull it all off the stage and all that sort of stuff. We pop it around inside the room now, and it's a lot more flexible now. But yeah, that's a big challenge. So, depending on where you are, I mean, if you can get a good deal with a production company in Melbourne or whatever, and get a good rate from them, that's probably the best thing I'd advise. We were lucky; we had a pretty good rate. It was still costing a bomb for a show. But it's the major expense is the production and putting the show
on. So Paul also said, what proportion of the audience is vocal versus other areas? Do you guys, do you gauge that? Do you get any kind of data from your shows that tell you where people are coming from?
Yeah.
In terms of where. Yeah, that all comes from the
ticketing
data. Yeah.
Awesome.
So essentially, when people buy their tickets, and we only sell our tickets through Oztix, so that just makes it nice and simple from that perspective.
Yeah.
And then when people do their purchase, you have the little tick box that says, "Do you approve to be included in reporting and marketing?" And so if the tick is there, then we get that data after the show. So typically about 60% of all the ticket sales, we actually have that information, and the other 40% people don't want to be included, and that's fine. But it just gives us enough to understand where people are coming from and that kind of stuff. So essentially, if you draw a ring around the South Gippsland Shire, it's about 60% of all the ticket sales come from outside the Shire. And it's about 25% actually come from the Greater Melbourne area. So, but if you, they have in their insights, they'll have a little heat map that says, this township had 3 tickets and that township had 5 tickets and stuff like that. And for some shows, they're just all over the place. They are.
Yeah. This is kind of a spin on Nathan's question. He said, do you host local musicians or are you bringing other groups in? I guess that we already know you're bringing headline acts. I guess this is, from my perspective, this might mean, do you have support acts that are kind of more local to you? Are you trying to give opportunity to artists? Yeah. I've always found that that's kind of a really cool thing to do as well. You probably don't need this for your headline act, but I used to always add a local muso because they would bring their own folk with them, which I always loved in terms of, ticket sales. It was like, let's support somebody local and bring all the local folk with them to experience a gig in this beautiful space, but also support the support act, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And then,
so on so on the local acts, so you're right. And we do where possible. So quite often the artists will bring their own support. But if they ask us to supply a support act, then I will canvass locals where possible. And it can get a tricky one because you got to get someone to be able to support this sort of music which is coming in. So,
absolutely, it's got to be the same quality.
It's got to be, so we have been lucky to be able to do that. And it is. You're right. It does bring an extra 10 seats.
Cool.
Definitely.
Hey, Carm Hogan has a meaty question here. Fiscally, do you underwrite the show or buy them in? What kind of split do you offer? What's your ticketing policy if something disrupts the gig happening, i.e. flood or muso's car breaking down? How do you accommodate artists? And then on from that, we had another question that kind of fits into the same category. Do you usually commit to a guarantee or a door deal? So this is the stuff that everybody kind of, spends a lot of time thinking about. Can you give us like an abridged version?
Yeah. Three basic deals. Yep. So you got your guarantee. All right. So, all right, you'll put Paul Kelly on and, you'll guarantee him so much. And he'll give us a good rate if he wants to play the hall because he generally wants to come and play. But look, I can give you, they're the risky ones. That's where you're wearing all the risk. So you've got to be careful on the guarantee on the guarantees. They're the ones which make me nervous. So the door deals. So the deal there is pretty much all ticket sales to the artist. And I guess, and for us, it works out to be, I think it's around, we get about $9 or $10 a ticket. So what we try to cover off there is our production costs. So the sound guys, the rider, we put that, what our costs are going to be, and then we add in a small percentage for our profit and stuff. So, you don't make too much money on those shows generally. You're making your $2 in the end, probably $2.50, $3 a ticket at the max. So 250 tickets, you're making around your $700 or something like that. So, but on the other side, there's no risk. All right. So, and everyone knows. And then the third deal is where you guarantee so much, and then you'll do a split. So whether that's an 80-20 split after, say, 150 tickets sold, and so you put your small percentage of win in there as well, or an 80-20. So there's your basic three deals. Now, if you need further information on that, so Music Victoria has got some good information on that as well. So, which I found one time when I was looking around in their website. Music Victoria also has some good contract templates in there too, if you need those. All right, so always handy to have those, just to get out. So I guess that's the basic three we use. Depending on how much risk you want to take on. Look, most touring acts, except for one or two promoters they'll just want a door deal, they take the risk. But most the international ones, you're going to be looking at a guarantee for those ones. So that's where you got to do your homework, and we always sort of work around the basis, okay, 250 capacity, what can we cover about, around, well, I work around to what can we look at 140 to 150, if, anything over, so you're not biting off too much. But then again, we had a show in March, which we paid quite a bit for and lost quite a bit on. just
Okay, I
because,
was going to say that. Yeah,
yeah, it happens, and you just got
it
to be
does
able to
happen.
read.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's and and look, I guess we should preface that with saying we are a volunteer organisation, so this is not a business operation here. Otherwise, you'd have to have a bar, you'd have to be doing that sort
yeah.
of stuff as well. So and yeah, so just mindful that this is volunteer. We sort of break out
Mm.
a little bit. We win a little bit each year, top up the coffers a little bit, but yeah, generally breaking out about even with your profits and losses.
Mm. And I've got a couple of questions, but very quickly. I guess having a bar means that you have another business stream again, and it's more responsibility, greater risk to you guys. Um, the BYO situation in small hall environments is a really great way to go if you don't want to be lumbered with all of that additional responsibility, work, limited licenses. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Physically, I don't think there's anywhere where we could actually stage a bar, because there's the server itself, and there's also a place where the patrons are going to stand in a queue and all that kind of stuff. You got to have someone to staff it. The licensing, stocking, all that kind of jazz, and
It's a lot of work.
yeah, and I think also just a lot of distraction for the proceeding of the night. You want to have a nice tender moment in a nice, quiet, subtle performance, and then someone's just oh yeah, I'll have two Chardonnays, thanks, and it just ruins it, and people don't even know that they're doing that. So I think it's just so much better that people just bring their own. And as Rod alluded to earlier, that there's just minimal movement, and people obviously want to go to the bathroom during the course of the evening, and that's fine. But very, very little movement. It just means that there's less distraction from the running of the night.
It also makes it more affordable for people to regularly attend. And then I guess the other thing too is that in terms of insurances, policies change dramatically if you have liquor on site. So, it's like having a corner shop with a smoke machine. It can be really dicey if you don't want to. Sorry, bad example. So a couple of questions just before this one that I want to come back to. Rob asked a great question. I'd love to hear about how you market your shows. What are your main channels and strategies?
Yeah,
for Colin.
Well, look, the main outlets we use are the focal point is obviously our website. That's where all the information for all our up and coming shows, and it's also a nice sort of record of our past shows. So when people come and want to find out a little bit more about us, straight away they can just see the nice breadth of the artists that we've already presented over the years. So we use that. We've got the two social media platforms we use. Facebook, we've got 4,500 followers, so that's it's probably the main social platform. Instagram has got just over 1,000 followers, so they're the two main ones. We have the small YouTube channel. We've been lucky enough to be able to have some of the performances actually filmed. So we just have a small YouTube channel for that, and that just gives more people just a bit more of an idea about what goes on, what's the feel of the shows and that kind of thing. We also have a mailing list. So we just about nearly 2,000 emails on that. So when we announce a show, we'll prepare the Olstick's ticket event page. We'll prepare the page on the website, and at the announce time, both of those go live, and then straight away we'll send out a newsletter to the people on the mailing list. So the thing with being on the mailing list is that you get the first advice of a new show. So that's the draw card to be on the mailing list. And as you would have seen on the shows that we've had, there's quite a lot of them that they sell out. So being on the mailing list gives you the front running advantage to get a ticket, as well as our channels. We make use of there's quite a few I guess, tourism-based websites. So for us, there's Visit South Gippsland. There's a separate one which is also Visit Gippsland. So we use both of those. When I was setting things up for the Visit Gippsland, the people there, they said, "Oh yes, you log in and you'll put your information about your show up, and then once you've put it up and it gets approved through the Visit Victoria team, then we'll pick it up and put it up on our Visit Gippsland website." And he said, "No, well, almost certainly that what'll also happen is the Visit Victoria website will also pick it up too." And anyhow, that's happened. So that's just another little outlet for the one piece of effort. We also obviously use Regional Arts Victoria member websites, so that's another wonderful little outlet for us as well. We're also do I love the heart going up, lovely. The Triple R also we're business subscribers to them, because the artists, when they come and they'll do interviews on the radio, they'll say, "Oh yes, and we're playing here, we're playing, oh Minion, it's such a lovely venue," and blah blah blah. You know, it's that kind of lovely banter. So we help out Triple R by being a business subscriber. So that allows us to be able to put
good investment.
Yeah, it's I think it is a good investment, and it allows us to be able to put our events on their gig guide as well too.
Excellent.
There was a local radio station, Gippsland, South Gippsland FM, I think it is. They've only just come on board, and they've set up a gig guide a couple of months back, so we put shows on that. So they're kind of like the main channel. So the channels that our Lyrebird channels, if you will, then there's these other channels, and they're all free to use, so there's no expense, which is fantastic. There's also a couple of others which just pick up the information from our website. So the people who look after the Bundy, they look after the Gippsland gig guide. Well, they just take the information straight off our website, which is even better still. There's actually no effort at all. There's also a couple of Facebook groups that's like Gippsland Musicians, Gippsland Gig Guide, and Gippsland and Philippola. There's three that we use, and so we can put a Facebook post up and then just forward that into those groups as well too. There's also the local newspaper, which is the South Gippsland Sentinel Times. So occasionally we'll put some articles in the paper for some of the shows. Not often, but it's just more as a news article rather than a paid ad. So they're probably the main channels. But I think probably the principle is that is try and get the word out for the show everywhere you can. We also print up some A4 size posters, and Rod will go around to the local businesses, and so they can put the posters up in their shop windows. And so it's almost like whatever avenue that you can get the word out, that's what we try and do.
Probably one to add there too is don't ever discount your local ABC. They're always looking for little spot fillers as well. So quite with ABC Gippsland, and you make a good contact with them, and or Triple M in your area and stuff like them. They generally like to, if you've got something interesting coming up, they'll do a plug for you as well.
Do you think it's fair to say that a lot of these artists would have their own social media presence, and that stuff used to work beautifully for us? We'd say, look, can you share it to your own page, which you think would be obvious, but may not always be. But if you request it, that's certainly going to go a long way. We've got a few extra questions that I kind of have to rocket through here. Nathan, I didn't ask you what the capacity is at Minion.
250. So 250 seated.
250. Yep.
Most shows are seated. So Amyl and Sniffers, 380.
Yeah, right. Packet to the rafters. So Nathan had a question. Do you think that having a smaller audience space, say 100 people, would still be able to make this successful? how long's a piece of string, I guess.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So I don't know. A lot of you may be aware of the Archers Creek Hotel. So it used to be the Caravan Club in Melbourne. So he's also in the area here. We're good friends of them. So they got 3 offerings out at their place. So they've got the pub, which fits about 100 in there. They got a small hall, just a couple of houses up, which fits about 180 to 200, and then they got the outdoor beer garden, which fits 400. And so they're putting shows on most weekends. The 100, depending on how much the act will cost and how much you can get a ticket for, you just got to balance it up. You can get some good acts for a reasonable cost, especially if they like coming down to where you are. So don't discount it, is what I'd say. And because it's more intimate, you might be able to charge a little bit more for those shows as well. It gets tougher as you go down in the amount of tickets you can sell. But then again, on the other side, 100 probably gives you, if you think of quite a lot of the venues in Melbourne, that's all they hold as well. So definitely don't discount it as not being operable.
And I think
I've got another question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Just to add to the financial side of things is just really the experience side of things as well. I mean, some of my most favourite shows there have been with tiny audiences. So if you have 100 people and the artist is just really at the top of their game, they've brought the magic, and it's just such a most wonderful night. And if you end up making a small deficit on the night, well, it is what it is. The more important consideration can often be the wonderful night itself. Just while I've just been just following the chat comments. There was a few of them just related to the ATDW, and yes, that's the system that you put the information in, and in our case that goes to the Visit Gippsland website, and also Visit Victoria website picks that up. But it's the ATDW is what we put that into.
So one of our crew has actually put in the link to the ATD. I always struggle with this, ATDW. And I can say that there are many other people that look to that site to promote in our region. One of those would be the Sydney-Melbourne touring route, which is run out of Sydney, but actually lists gigs on that touring route. And they're not all on the main road either, which is really great. The other people are obviously Destination Gippsland, who anything they see that is listed as ATDW, they prioritise in terms of support. So I think Stacey Barnes put that up there. Nice work, Stacey. We're sort of running out of time. I have a couple of other quick questions. Rob asked a question that we could be here for hours ruminating over. It's how do you manage performing rights, APRA One Music obligations? Can you give us a really short answer or an abridged version on that one?
Yeah, the short answer is One Music. So APRA changed their housekeeping with it about 5 years ago, something like that. So the upshot there is there's 2 types of licensing consideration. One is the licensing for the live performance by the artist. So One Music, they say the promoter looks after that, so we don't bother with any of that housekeeping. The other licensing is the licensing for the playing of walk-in music. So we just have some background music as people are arriving on the night, and also during the break between the support and the main act, and also after the show. So what the One Music people did for us, there's they just had one of the consultants that I met with, and we just told them that this is how we operate, this is what we do, and then they say, yes, okay, on that basis you'll need this license and you'll need that license. So in our case there's 2 of them. I can't remember what they are, but the upshot is that they basically just pay a license fee. In our case it's nice and simple, it's just a direct debit once a year, and that pays for the playing in public of the walk-in pre-recorded music, and it's as simple as anything. It's a much easier process.
Brilliant. We had one more question from Calm, but I think it's been answered already. Do you do any hard copy posters? I think you said Rod cruises around town with A4 But
It's
that's a big job in itself. But good on you for doing
it's
it.
my most unenjoyable job. Well, you get to meet a lot of people, but I get
You
sick of
do,
blue tack.
but yeah, exactly. Blue tack, and no, this won't leave sticky marks on your windows when it always
That's
does.
right.
Um, we've had some really, really cool questions in this session. We've got a few minutes left. I'm wondering if anybody has anything they'd like to add there in the chat. Thanks to everybody who asked those questions. This has been a really cool session to be a part of, and I don't know, I kind of do think it's one of those that the word will spread and people will wish they were here. You guys have been amazing in sharing this information, given you're both volunteers and you probably got far too much, in your schedule already, but it's been brilliant. Does anybody have any last minute questions? I just want to add one thing. Sorry, Paul. Yep.
And it's sort of more do you think that a possibility of a sort of regional circuit for particularly some of the international artists you get would build, I guess, build their interest in developing it, particularly if we could, offer accommodation in beautiful places as part of the deal?
Yeah, it's funny. When Sarah Blasco was here, she was here for a couple of nights earlier in the year, and just chatting away with her, and she actually mentioned that that very concept is the knowledge of a regional tour or a recognised regional tour that artists are likely to gravitate toward. And so when she toured last year, she also played at the hall last year as well. And most of the dates on that particular tour were all regional dates, and pretty much the same for this time round when she played here in March. We had Josh Pike last month, and he just played. When he played at Minion, it was the final night of his tour, and that was a regional tour. It's about 35 dates. And when we have Paul Dempsey, he'll be playing in early July, and his tour is also a regional tour as well too. So it seems to be more of a recognised entity, if you will, of a regional tour. Now, how to actually latch into that, I think that's almost like, yeah, exactly as you alluded to, trying to make the stop on, or potential stop, if you will, on a tour as attractive as you possibly can by, setting things up right and having nice accommodation, nice this and nice that, and all of the things that we've sort of touched on today. But it seems as though there's more of a recognised regional tour, certainly in this day and age, than there was when we first started having shows all those years ago.
Don't be, and just on that, so artists do talk and they know where they're getting looked after. So yeah, they'll if you do something good for them, they'll pass it on.
I just wanted to say to anybody in the group who's either embarking into this space, you guys do it so well. One thing I would say to anybody joining is that the best way to go and have to learn as much as you possibly can is by going to one of these gigs, sitting in the audience and immersing yourself into it, and understanding that there's so much that works. There may be things that don't work for you, but that's the best way to start to establish a program like this, is to go to somebody else's gig, to go to Menion, to go to the Bundy Hall, to go to whoever it is who's doing this. It's a great learning process, I reckon. I wanted to ask you guys one parting question. Who is your dream artist? Who's the gig you're aspiring to or can't wait to bring in?
Well, you always got to have Dylan, but contemporary. It's an interesting one. So right at and then I'd have Nick Cave. Sorry, but
yeah, right, okay.
I think Nick Cave would be there, and you never know.
Yeah, well, he's more likely than Dylan, I reckon.
It's more likely than Dylan. So, yeah.
What about you, Colin?
I think probably not so much an artist to look forward to, but I always think back to artists that have been. I mean, my most favourite one was Sharon Jones with the Dap Kings, the late Sharon Jones.
Wow.
Oh, she had more energy for a 60-year-old cancer patient, the cancer survivor, than people that were a third of her age. Oh, she was just astounding. I think probably the most surreal one for me was probably the day that Mavis Staples walked onto the Minion stage. I just still think that that's just the most extraordinary event that's taken place. So I can't actually think of the ideal artist that we would like to have, but I could certainly understand the joy of actually having Nick Cave if that were to ever happen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Rod alluded to the Mossvale festivals. Mossvale is a park. It's about 10 minutes drive east of Leongatha. Lovely place. And anyhow, they had presented the Dirty Three, and of course Warren Ellis, being Nick Cave's musical director, is all part of there. So you just never know with these connections. Strange things can happen, and the universe can just deliver the weirdest things. You just never know.
Absolutely. Well, we've got 6 minutes up our sleeve, but I reckon these guys you've given us so much information. It's been a really cool session to be a part of. Thanks so much for joining us. Go well, and I hope everybody has a great next gig.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.